Okay, so once we've generated some words, the next stage is to turn it into a sentence linked to my topic of child labour. Now, this is why we're going to do this process a couple of times, using as many of the images as the time allows, because you'll see that one metaphor potentially might work better with your chosen topic than saying all of these metaphors do. Now, I've deliberately tried to use ways into metaphors that are quite what we call transferable. Yes, so they're quite culturally rich. There's lots of richness in the metaphor of a thief in terms of linking it to potentially a lot of the topic areas you might have chosen. Similarly, I would argue that we could all use a metaphor of blindness when we're trying to persuade anybody to do anything, because we want to challenge them not to be blind to whatever cause you're presenting. Do not be blind to the amount of plastic pollution building up on our beaches. Do not be blind to the homeless man at the end of your street. Do not be blind. So some of them have what we call greater leverage. You could use them across many, many topics. As we do this process, something you'll be like, that one actually, I really like that. That could really work within my speech. Okay, so can you see? I'm just going to show you again how we take these ideas and we turn them into a sentence. Okay, and then we're going to just practice creating some banks, some semantic banks around as many of the images as we can. So it says here, there's my waves and tsunami image. Those are some of the ideas I've come down with. And now's my sentence. The reality of child labour crashes over us like a tsunami, drowning us under the sheer volume of children that need to be saved. But we can turn the tide. So all of those purple words are words that are linked from that metaphor. And that's an extended metaphor because I've not just mentioned it once. Actually, in that one, I'm using it like a simile, so it can be a metaphor or a simile when we begin to turn them into sentences. Now, a really good writer would keep that metaphor going. So somewhere in the middle, and definitely at the end of my speech, I would come back to this image of a wave and a tsunami. Now, this is a high style technique. It's also a memory technique. It also plays on people's emotions, so it's used for pathos, but it's a really powerful device. So let's look at blindness. Now, your sentences where you are metaphorical do not have to be really long, okay? They can be quite short and pithy. So here we go. There's my whole list of words, and I've said, how can we be blind to the reality of child labour? How can we be blind to the reality of child labour? Okay? So we've used that word. Now I could extend it. How can we be blind to the reality of child labour? When we convince ourselves that our blindness isn't our fault. When we refuse to address our ignorance and recognise that we can't see clearly. Yeah? But it's time now to get our sight tested. So you could use it and extend it that way, but it doesn't have to be. It can be used in a short sentence. Okay, and using that third metaphor of a thief that comes in the night to steal and rob. Okay, so innocent children are being robbed of their childhood as the thief of child labour steals mercilessly from them. Okay, now we could have just gone, child labour is illegal. It is fueled by criminal activity that robs and steals from children. So it's not always that you have to do it my way, but what I'm showing is that once we've got those banks of words, they're no good to us unless we turn them into a sentence that's going to work within our speech. Okay, now what we're going to do over the next few slides, you'll see is that I'm going to be challenging you to just do that game, write down the word, a bank of words, and turn it into a sentence. Okay, so these are the words. Now, I've deliberately even got rid of the starting words, but we know we've got the power of choice, a lighthouse, a storm, a monster. We're at a crossroads. So in a minute, all you need to do, okay, is I'll say power of choice, go, and you're just going to write down as many words as you can. Then I'm going to say lighthouse, go, okay? And we're going to do mustn't pause, mustn't hesitate. Now, to support people that get stuck, I'm going to say some words or phrases as well. If that's annoying, you press pause. Luckily, you won't have to hear me. So if you're trying to think and all you can hear me is going, rah, 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 press pause. Don't worry about it. Just do the 5 images in your own time. If you'd like me to help you, if you like a little bit of kind of energy and competition, see how many I can get versus how many you can get in 30 seconds, stay with me. But only give yourselves about 30 seconds an image. You don't want to be there for much longer. Okay, so press pause now if you want to do it by yourself and don't want to hear me being annoying. Or stay with me. Okay, so power of choice. Okay, so I'm thinking of words, phrases linked to choices. Okay, so Choices give us power. Power makes us feel that we matter. There is always a choice. When people say there is no choice, they are copying out. You mustn't abdicate your right to make choices. Choices can be good or bad. Choices can be positive or negative. So choices are the options that are set before us. Choices help us decide for ourselves. We take back ownership. We take back power when we're capable of making choices. Okay, so that one was a bit harder. So you'll see with these that there's some, and you think there's so many ideas, that's got to be a good one for me. If it's one that doesn't work for you, you're not going to use it, okay? So let's think. Lighthouse. Okay, on your marks, get set, 30 seconds, go. Okay, a lighthouse in a storm. A lighthouse guides you to safety. A lighthouse can be seen from miles and miles around. A lighthouse is in the middle of darkness. A lighthouse helps you to find your way. A lighthouse is a safe place and a security. Whew. Okay, did you get some ideas of your own, or are you sticking with mine? Okay, a storm. Okay, so what can we say about storm? So storm metaphorically, a storm, a force of nature, thunder, lightning, loud, destructive, powerful, rain and wind, and a mix of, what's what I'm looking for? Elements. Okay, a storm is a mix of elements coming together. A storm can be destructive, but actually we can sometimes recognize we need storms. They clear the atmosphere, they clear things out. Whew. Okay. Next one, ready? Monsters. So monsters, monstrous, scary. A monster is the thing of nightmares. A monster is created. A monster isn't real, but a monster is something that people create. Okay, a monster can kill, harm, destroy. A monster is scary. A monster is something monstrous and terrible and the stuff of nightmares. Okay. Right, crossroads. Okay, crossroads. That's a moment where I've got to make a decision. It's a moment where I get to make a choice. There's two ways before me. One way is the easy way. One way is the harder way, but it's better for me. So for each of my 5 images, I've just created a bank of words or phrases. Now, the next stage is just to, out of the 5, just turn 1 or 2 into sentences. So if I was looking across these 5 and I'm thinking, right, which of these metaphors is better for child labour? Actually, they all have some leverage. I could use them. Okay, but I might want to go for a negative and a positive one. So, okay, child labour is the monster we have created with our own capitalism and greed. Because we are hungry for money and hungry for countries to produce clothes, shoes, produce, but we don't want to pay for it. We've created the monster of child labour because children are used to produce what we want at a low price. So I've used that word monstrous several times, okay? So that could be my sentence. Okay, crossroads. When it comes to child labour in 2020, we find ourselves at a crossroads. We can continue down the path of producing or using and exploiting children, or we can determine today to choose another path, to find other ways to produce the clothes and the materials that children are being forced to make on our behalf. Okay, so I'm at the crossroads. Okay, lighthouse. We can determine today to be a lighthouse in the midst of the dark, murky world of child labour. We can take a stand and project a clear light that can guide people and help them at this time. Yeah, see, so you'll see what I mean. Some will work, some won't. So press pause, and from across those kind of 5 images, just choose one of the banks of words where you have lots of lovely ideas and turning it into a metaphorical sentence linked to your topic. So it could be something like, if child labor is like a monster in the world at the, well, I'm not going to talk anymore. You guys do it. Okay, so come up with your best sentence now. Okay, now what I want to just take us to now is a similar activity, but look, we're going to make sure now we include antithesis. Now, a few lessons ago, we looked at this idea of antithesis. It's a rhetorical figure that creates opposites, okay? It uses juxtaposition, places 2 opposite ideas together for a rhetorical effect. So because we're looking to craft a high style element into our paragraph today, metaphor, simile. If we also combine that metaphor and simile with antithesis, we are like rocking it in the rhetorical world, okay? We are creating a paragraph that not only has got one sentence grown into 4 others, so that 5-sentence content, that's sustained content, but we're also going to have lots of beautiful rhetorical figures. We're going to have high style characteristics, a metaphor and a simile, and now potentially antithesis. So with this one, I've done the beginning work for you. I started to create some metaphors. Okay, the antithesis, if you remember, means the opposite. So what word or phrase would we need to include to create the opposite? Okay, so we hold the world in our hands. We can either be or with it. So actually, when we hold things, what choices can we make? Have you ever held something like a cup or something really precious of your mother's and just like, oh my gosh, you might drop it. So we can either be gentle or clumsy with it. We hold the world in our hands. We can either be clumsy or gentle with it. Okay, so we could change that. I'm thinking child labour, you've got your own topics. We hold the future of 168 million children in our hands. We can either be careful with it or clumsy. So I've created my antithesis around my metaphor. Yeah. Now this one, I do like this image. This is about sometimes being mute or silent or voiceless around a topic. Okay. We have been silent, mute, and voiceless for too long. Now is the time to. So guys, what's the opposite of being silent, of being mute, of being voiceless? What words come into your mind? Now is the time to. Brilliant. Did you say speak? Excellent. Do you say have a voice potentially? Now is the time to have a voice. Now is the time to find your voice. Now is the time to speak. Any of those words are the antithesis, the opposite to silent, mute, and voiceless. So we've got our metaphor, but also now we've linked it to antithesis. So we like being pretty amazing. Okay. So what about this one? We can unlock the future for millions of children or keep the to the Okay. Now, this is sometimes where metaphors have to, you think, conceptually in your head, you've got to start to imagine. So first of all, what sort of things do I unlock? What could my Miss Deutsch brain be imagining of how we're going to complete this using antithesis? We can unlock the future for millions of children or keep the something to the. So first of all, if we think, what's the opposite of unlocked? Brilliant, locked. Okay. So basically we're saying we can unlock the future for millions of children or keep the door to the future locked, or keep the gate to the future locked, or keep the door to the future locked. Yeah. So we can unlock the future for millions of children or keep the door locked to the future for children. So then we've got antithesis. Okay. If we do not like the way out of slavery, millions of children will be condemned to. So guys, what's the opposite to light? Darkness. Brilliant. If we do not like the way out of slavery, millions of children will be condemned to darkness. Now, guys, where you can be clever with these is I don't want you to pick all of them, but I want you to choose one that could suit your topic. Across these, I've tried to be broad. So all you need to do now is you're going to write one down, but you're going to personalize it to your topic. So I'm trying to think of some of the work I've seen people doing. And I know Holly's doing this really lovely piece on sports and inequality in sport. So she could write, we have been silent, mute and voiceless for too long. Now is the time to speak out for women's equality in sport. Okay? We can unlock the future for millions of young sportswomen or keep the door to the future locked against them. If we do not like the way out of inequality in sports, many young women will be condemned to darkness and a future where they are paid poorly. So actually, Holly might be saying, well, that lamp one doesn't really work, but the mute silent one could work for my topic. The unlocking the future could work. Okay, Austin also did a brilliant piece. He's beginning to do a brilliant piece on racism. Okay, so potentially, yeah, any of these could work. So the final stage is that you're going to write one of those down, but only one that you think would best suit your topic. Now, the last bit for today. So I've put all my ideas together into my next setting paragraph. So you can see I've got my bit from the beginning and I've thread through it, my metaphor about being blind, and not seeing properly. So your final challenge today is to write a new paragraph that's going to include